Doing a pre-record. You are watching Green Links World Entertainment. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you will be tuned in when we go live. Is it the wrong time? Yeah, 50, like, man, you know, your brokenness is hurting everybody. You want to lash out on everybody else because your life was
different because I'm integrating spirit in the midst of the conversation.
Why do you think that, Candace, so many people are hesitant? And I don't want to say so many people. Why do you think that people are hesitant to venture down this lane of healing? For some
And then it's like, now I'm not my best self because I'm burdened by everything that's going on around. It's like, now it's like, it's a sense of freedom when you really get to a point where it's like, now you can really help them. Mm-hmm. Now you really moving. Now you really getting your stuff together by focusing on you and getting right and doing what everybody got a gift and got a purpose here on the planet. Like,
I tell you 3 times like a trilogy. Eating up is word to give me energy. Tell the filthy devil, get up off of me. Saying you gotta pay.
Thank you. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. So come on in, everybody. Thank you all for joining another episode of the Vet Green Show. I'm going to jump right into it, y'all. Let's talk about this Target boycott. Is it ending? Is this Target boycott ending? Well, Pastor Jamal Bryant, he went to DC. You know, he's really trying to work with people. And Tamika Mallory and them was like, wait a minute, hold off. Because he had said that after a year, this boycott should be ending. And everybody's like, you can't be popping, what do they call it? Pea peddling. And no, you can't be doing that. We're not doing that. Are we boycotting or no? And like, it's divided right now. I was never really a big Target shopper. I was never that. So it didn't really bother me to not shop at Target. I always, like, their clothes just didn't, the style wasn't there for me. It just didn't seem like it was a store for me. Like, I would go in there for maybe some laundry detergent or something like that, or maybe some knickknacks for the house, but I never really was a huge Target shopper. It just didn't seem like it was for me. So boycotting it wasn't a problem with me. Now, McDonald's and Walmart, y'all go have me in a chokehold. I ain't even gonna lie, because I love me some McDonald's French fries. And Walmart, I find Walmart stepped it up with their fashions. But do you think that we need to do more of this? You know, like, I laugh and stuff and say about Target and about Walmart and McDonald's, but honestly, y'all, I've been shopping Black for a while. And if I need to prove a point, because I refuse to continue to give people my money who don't even respect me. Like, that's why I don't even shop at a lot of stores in my neighborhood, because it's like, if you can't respect me as a Black woman, as a woman, I'm not going to be spending my money with you. And I think if we hold that stance, if we start going by that, then we're going to have people respecting us. You see, Target lost a lot of money because we love to shop, y'all. Black people love to shop. That's why a lot of advertising dollars are poured into anything that we watch, because we are the shoppers. We love to spend money. It just is what it is. You know, where Black eyes are, that's where those advertisements are going to be. And that's just the fact of the matter. We like to shop. So we stopped going to Target, y'all. People stopped, and not only us, but people that were like, wait a minute, that overstood DEI and what it did. Because, see, people, they painted this picture as if DEI was only for Black people. That's a lie, y'all. When I went back into the workforce, now, mind you, I worked in corporate America for most of my career. And in my career, what's going on, Christopher Bobbitt? In my career, and it's heavily male driven. Anytime you deal with sales, it's heavily male driven. And in this particular, the field that I was in, it's always been heavily male driven. So I was out of the workforce I got laid off in 2009. I didn't go back until 2014. When I went back in 2014, I was like, oh, it started changing a little bit. The landscape had changed. Fast forward, I'm in Chicago, the landscape really changed. And a part of that is because of DEI. I had never had a Black boss that was like real high up, real high up. Not only did I have female bosses, all of the people above me were female. I had never seen that. And I got into this career in 1998. I had never seen that. Always heavily male driven. I'm talking about the director was female. The CCO was female, giving orders, running things. And a lot of that is because of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now they're trying to pull all of that back. And if they do pull all of that back, what's going to happen is going to revert right back to where it was, where they only look at, a certain demographic. Is it right? Absolutely not. Because human beings in general, it does not matter what you look like. That does not mean that you're inferior, but the way the playing ground was, it made it seem like there was a superiority depending on what you look like. And when you don't have representation, that means you don't think that you can ascribe to be or even believe that you can get that far in life. And that's what was happening. Did not realize that they can get to a point in life where they can be the CEO or the CCO. That was just the feeling. That was how they painted it. That was, again, that goes back to the programming that we have, y'all. We have a lot of programming that went on. I was programmed to think that, I was inferior compared to other ethnicities. I was programmed to believe, Mr. Capricorn, that you can only have certain things if you looked a certain type of way or if you did certain things. I was programmed to believe that. I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, and had fun in the 90s, okay? So you can see where I'm going with this. I was programmed to believe a lot of things until I realized, wait a minute, that was a lie. Like, there's lies that have been told to us for a very long time. And now what I saw over the last maybe 15 years is that programming that was done is being undone. This new generation, that programming is not working. The new generation, they're like, wait a minute, that's not right. Just like this, what's going on right now over in Iran. New generation is like, wait a minute, that's not right. Something's not right here. But then we still have who are my age and even older. And I look at the people that's older than me, and I be like, man, I know how I grew up with the programming. The programming was even worse for our parents, or if your parents were born in the like 30s, 40s, and 50s, or even if you have loved ones that were born even later than that, the programming is real. So yeah, we can side-eye them a little bit, y'all, but we also have to understand that when you come up with, a rhetoric that's pushed in your face, because that's what it is. It was literally pushed in our face from school age. From the moment we entered school, it was pushed in our face. I can remember when Reagan got into office. I can remember my school teacher. It was a huge thing for the presidential race for a very long time. I thought it was y'all, I thought that electing the president was a holiday for a very long time, because that's how they made it seem. And I can remember my teacher telling me, yeah, go home and tell your parents to vote for Reagan. So what do? I go home and say, Mom, you should vote for Reagan. I can remember my mom holding my hand. I'm only like 5. Now, mind you, this was like what, 81? Reagan was first won the presidency. I can remember going with my mom. My mom took me to vote with her as she voted for Reagan, not knowing what we were voting for, y'all. Not knowing what we were voting for. Not saying that he was the worst president, but saying that he did a lot of things to people that look like me. He did a lot of things, and he painted, and they painted this picture to make us believe that we were like bad. I can remember them showing us like, I remember when the Central Park thing happened. What is the Central Park 5? I remember when that happened. I remember how they made us afraid to go into New York City, and how they made it seem like Black men were just so evil. I remember that feeling that they gave us from television, y'all. I remember the news reporting on this stuff. And now it's like it's all a part of the programming, the division, the divide. They want us to be divided because if they divide it, we fall, y'all. Divided, we fall. Together, we can conquer. But they don't want us to know that. They want us divided. It's not just here. They want us divided. They also don't want us to know why they're really, out here in other countries doing these things like this. I'm going to stay on topic, y'all. But I did want to talk about how y'all felt. I want to know, what do y'all think about this Target boycott ending? Pastor Jamal then pulled back and said, he was wrong for saying that. And he's not trying to, I didn't finish watching the entire thing, but if you go on Pastor Jamal's podcast, you can see where he talks about it. Mr. Capricorn and Christopher, he talks about it. And he's like, he probably jumped too soon. He's not trying to step on the Queen Tamika Mallory's toes or anybody that's even, dealing with it. Anybody who feels a way, he's not trying to step on anybody's toes. And he's saying, yeah, you know what, maybe we should not do this. I'm proud of Pastor Jamal Bryant for saying that, because it's like, we cannot give in right now, y'all. There's too much at stake. If we can prove a point with Target, imagine how we can prove a point with these other corporations that's trying to do away with DEI and trying to listen, y'all, I worked for years where they affected my financial ability. And I did not realize it until I was out of it. But yeah, y'all, it's just pay attention to what is going on in this world, because it can be real. It can definitely be real. Well, there's some things that I wanted that has been trending on social media. Before I get into this, what's going on with the fighting and everything, let's just keep it a little bit lighthearted. I want to talk to y'all about some of these things that I found on Instagram. Y'all are watching Green Links World Entertainment. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you will be tuned in when we go live. How do you feel about parents not being in their child's life until they become adults? How do you feel about that? I came across a post where this girl, and she's talking about a dad, and I can relate because my birth father was not really in my life for various reasons. We didn't really establish a relationship until later on in life, for various reasons. But I know who does not have some residual issues because of it. Like, your girl got daddy issues, okay? Your girl got daddy issues that I've been working on. I'm aware of the daddy issues. I'm aware of, I had to walk it back to relationships, like why I was choosing certain relationships. And a lot of it was because, a lot of those daddy issues came because my daddy wasn't in my life. And I have to constantly check in with myself and be like, girl, is that a daddy issue showing up right now? Especially in a relationship, is that a daddy issue showing up right now? Because them daddy and mommy issues too, y'all. Because some of y'all men are out here running around with some mommy issues, okay? And taking it out on the women, wanting the women to be your mommy, just like some of us women be wanting the men to be our daddies, and they can't be. So, I had to check in with myself, but let me play this. Let me see which one it is. I'm going to pull it up here. And I'm going to let this play. And y'all, let me know what y'all think.
Wrong with fathers now calling their kids when they're grown, talking about something, we need to hang out more. We need to talk more. We got to start hanging up. Why aren't you calling me? Biggs, I spent 20 years of my life without you, thugging it out. Why are you now calling me when I have no need for you whatsoever? Now what's the hit up? Now is that, oh, you got to check up on me. I'm getting old. Why aren't you? You weren't checking up on me when I needed you as a kid, right? Why should I check up on you now when you're grown? I'm sorry, it doesn't, and I know why you guys are doing this, because you're old, you're scared of dying alone, and now you think it's important to be in your kid's life. Like, you don't understand.
And say, this is true, males, I'm telling y'all now, because there's more of y'all in these nursing homes because of the stuff that I'm talking about. So make sure if you have not subscribed to Green Links World Entertainment so you can see this video, because there's a lot of males in nursing homes right now because of this same thing. Like, y'all grow up or y'all mature later than women. And I feel it's because like we are made to, once we start, being able to have babies, I think that's why we mature earlier than y'all, is because we can have babies very early. And I feel like this is one of the reasons, hey, Lee J, I feel like this is one of the reasons why the maturity level, I don't hold it against anyone who knows I'm not ready to be a parent. I don't hold it against anybody, because I would rather you admit that than be in your child's life and just like mess them up. I'd rather that happen, right, Lee J? Because we got some people that probably would have been, did a lot better without some, toxic parent, because there is a such thing as toxic parenting. So let me go ahead and finish playing this. Again, y'all, if y'all want to watch the full show, make sure you subscribe to Green Links World Entertainment. So let me go ahead and finish playing this.
And how much that does to somebody. What makes you think that now I have a need for you? What makes you think now I'm like, oh, you don't call me? Do you not miss me? Do you not love your father? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't. Miss what? Miss who? I don't know you. You're a man that brought me here. That is all. What is wrong with fathers?
She says a lot, y'all. So I'm watching from Bitter Baby Daddy Chronicles. That's her Instagram handle. Hey, Tashila. Oh, you want to? Okay. So I'm watching. It's from Bitter Baby Daddy Chronicles, and what she says is, why do some fathers wait until the damage is done to show up? I can say that about some moms too, y'all. See, I know both sides. I know some mamas that wasn't in these kids' life, and I know some daddies that wasn't in the kids' life. Now, mind you, the table, it is a little bit like this when it comes to the daddies and the moms. It is, but it can happen with either parent. I've seen it on both sides. And that's the stance a lot of people take. Like, I'm already grown up. Case in point, and I'm putting my business out here. I did my ancestry, and I'm quick to say, listen, y'all, my father was a Rolling Stone. He was. And he wasn't embarrassed about it. Like, he knew who he had kids with. He knew how many kids. Now, did he share it with me? How many kids he had? No, he didn't. Because when he passed away, I thought there were just 9 of us. Come to find out, there's a lot more of us. Okay, a lot more of us. But I say that to say, y'all, a lot of these back in the days, people were just having kids, having whole families, and just leaving them because they felt like that child would be better off without them. Or maybe they just didn't want to be a father or a mom. Maybe they just didn't want to be a parent. But don't come in my life once I'm grown, or in cases with you see it sometimes with athletes or entertainment stars. They get all of this money. I think as a matter of fact, one of my favorite Lil Baby, I think him and his dad didn't have a good relationship. I feel like he was raised by his mom, and then him and his dad has a relationship now, I believe, if I remember correctly. But that happens a lot. How do y'all feel about that? How do you feel about a parent not being in your life, and now after you're raised, after you're grown, sometimes in the foster care, now they want to show up in your life because now they're getting their life together? Some people will be like, where was you at when I really needed you? Like, you're not here. You weren't there when I really needed you. I no longer need that type of support. The emotional support, I don't need it from you because I know that you didn't show up for me when I was a kid. So why would I expect you to show up for me now? That's the stance. So my question for y'all is, how do y'all feel about that? What's going on, GW Speaks Life? What's going on, Tashila? How do y'all feel about that when people just pop up in your life like that after the deed is done? That was food for thought, but I thought that was a good one. Something else I wanted to show y'all. This one right here. When I tell you this lady gives me life, Being that I just turned 50 in January, I'm like, yes, if God gives me another 30 years, this is going to be me, okay? This is going to be me and all of my awesomeness. So let me go. I got to pause it. Let me see if I can share my screen. When I tell you that this lady just gives me life, gives me all types of life. Let me share my screen here. When she got out, she was a drum major, y'all. Let me get in here. I'm going to start it over because I got to show y'all how she came out. 84. When I say black and crack. She get it, y'all. She get it. You better hit it, queen. 84 years old, y'all. That's going to be me. Her own and everything. Hey. Getting it. 84, y'all. Nice. Come on. Come. What? I know that's right. Her own and everything. Yes, queen. Yes. Yes, she came out. Oh, Miss Johnny Mae Austin. If you ain't like that doing the doggone thing at 84, y'all, some of us in our 50s and 60s and can't do all of that. Miss Johnny Mae Austin was getting it. Now, Tashila over here on Instagram, she said, she going back to the question that I posed a little while ago about parents coming into their kids' life after they're grown. Tashila said, my situation is different. My girl's father was there for my oldest child. Similar. And not to put like my oldest child business out there, but it is very similar. Like my daughter, and I did not force. One thing I can say is that when I was 16 and pregnant, and my daughter was born, she was the first grandchild on both sides. All of her great grandparents were alive. What I did not do and didn't really have to do is force her father, her birth father, to be a father. I didn't do that because my mama always told me, you know, daddy's maybe is my baby. That always it's been me and my sister from my grandmother. Like this is something that's been, you know, drilled into us. If you go out there and make a baby, that's your baby, period. And that's how I've always felt. So when I had my oldest daughter, we were kids. And her father is her grandmother's baby. So you know how that kind of goes. Her grandmother did what he didn't do. Now they have a relationship. But like my daughter, like 32 years old. She'll be 33 this year. And, you know, over the last probably, definitely less than 10 years, like they've been kind of building a relationship. But I mean, and she loves her dad. She does. But she doesn't expect from him, like they're friends. Like she's like, Ma, it's just weird. I feel like I know that's my dad, but it feels like we're friends because she was raised by somebody else. You know, when she thinks of dad, she pictures somebody else. Yeah, so it's just weird like that. Was it right? Possibly not, because it allowed him to just do what he wanted to do. Like I just didn't want to have to go through like child support and all of that. I didn't want to have to go through that. And I just don't believe in forcing anybody to be a parent. You know, I just don't believe in doing that. I don't let somebody raise the baby that's going to love that child. You know, forcing somebody to be a parent does not always work out. You know, some people really have ill feelings towards that, and they take it out on a child when they're kind of forced to be a parent. Being 16 and pregnant is kind of being forced, but I don't know. I've always wanted kids, so I wish I could have done it better. I wish I would have known that there were options. And I think I had talked about this before, that growing up, I thought it was a woman's job to have kids. Again, the programming, because I didn't see anything different. And the women that I know that didn't have kids, it wasn't because they didn't want to have them, it's because they couldn't have kids. Or maybe they had one child and they wanted more and it just didn't work out that way. Like, that was my experience. I had not met many, if any, body that didn't have kids and didn't want kids. So growing up, I thought it was our job to have kids. Now I know better. And it's like, shoot, if you don't want any kids, that's your prerogative. Don't have them. And if you have them, make sure that you are prepared, because kids cost money and your life is no longer your own. That's my stance on it now. But growing up, when you are programmed to think that this is something that you're supposed to do, like, I really thought that we were supposed to have kids. And I thought it was weird for women to not want to have kids as I got older. And I started having kids. I was like, when women would say, I don't want no kids, I'd be like, well, that's not fair. Thinking like, we supposed to, what does it say in the Bible? Be fruitful and multiply. I thought that was our job, but the way this world is going right now, y'all, I don't blame anybody for not wanting to bring a baby into this world right now. I don't blame anybody. I don't. And I think like they are mad because the population is dropping on in certain demographics, right? People have stopped having as many babies. And that's a part of, again, what's going on here in America, because people aren't having babies. And they're like, wait a minute, we are no longer the majority. And they're looking at the people who are having kids, and it's not us. Listen, y'all, we've been got out of that race. We may have one or two. Gone are them days where you see a lot of Black women walking around with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 kids. Those days are long gone, because we learned that lesson. We learned that lesson, y'all. It wasn't too many of us where I was living in the projects how many of us? It was like 2 or 3 families, including mine, that had more than 4 kids. I had 6, 2 sets of twins. So we've been stopped having all them kids, but it's not us. It's not us. They're like, wait a minute. We are no longer the majority. And I had read this probably 20 years ago that Latins or Puerto Ricans were going to be the majority. I think it said by 2030, if I'm not mistaken. Well, heck, look into it, y'all. Who is the majority here in America right now? What is it looking like? Because it's not what we thought. It's not like it used to be. Tashila said, I was 21 when I had my first child, and it was me and him against the world, but my parents was there. God rest 3 souls. Amen. I thank God that my mom, my grandmother, I had a village. I had a village help me. I can't even lie. I don't think I would have been able to do it. Even now, I'd be like, Uncle Rob, that's my Uncle Daddy for real. Yeah, I've had a village to help me. And I know that's why, I've had more success than I've had, downfalls. And that's because I had some good people in my life. I come from good stock. I had a conversation with one of my older cousins. I just call it Clifton. And he's one, and I tell him all the time that I thank God that I had him in my life, because he didn't allow me and my cousin Toya to just be like, we couldn't do a lot of the stuff. We had to sneak, y'all. We couldn't do a lot of the stuff that a lot of people were doing, because he was like, oh, heck no. Even now, I was asking about this bar in Buffalo, and he was like, y'all can't go there. Don't nothing but hood rats go there, and I respect my cousin. That's my older cousin. I didn't have a brother in my life to tell me different things. So I respect what it is that he instilled in this, and I look at me and my cousin's lives, and again, we have more triumphs than we have. Not to say that we don't have some tragedies, y'all, because we do, just like with any families, we do. Should we have, people addicted to different substances and You know, like gambling is serious in our family. My mom, that's why they listen, y'all. But at the end of the day, we take care of our responsibilities, and that's what I can say sets us apart from a lot of other people. You know, and you can see it as the different generations are growing up. Like I'm looking at my cousins' kids and grandkids, and I'm like, okay, you know, people are doing well. And for those who aren't doing well, you know, you still have somebody that if you need a plate, you can get a plate. Now, you might not be able to stay with me, but if you're hungry or something like that, you go get fed. And because it takes a village. Let me get into what else was I going to talk about. Oh, yeah. Did y'all see the video of the woman who was being forcibly removed from her car, and she's in the car with her 15-year-old? Now, I really want to know what y'all think about this. Could it have been avoided? Do you think that the officer went too far? Do you think that the mom should have just complied? I really want to know. So let me go ahead and play this video. And if you have not subscribed to Green Links World Entertainment, make sure you do so that you can watch this video once it goes, once I put it out there live. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I thought this was interesting. Yeah, this is it. Okay.
The citation, as far as the bill, you don't want to take it?
No.
Well, it's going to take it because it's your citation.
I don't want it.
That's your citation. That's littering. Step out of the car.
No, don't do that. Step off my car. I'm not stepping out. Look.
Mom, chill out.
I'm not just call. Yes, call. I'm not touching.
Mom, please chill out. Mom, please chill out. Mom, please chill out.
Don't touch me. I'm not stepping out of shit. Call your motherfucking supervisor. You're not the supervisor. Call your supervisor. A supervisor. I'm not stepping out of nothing.
Mom, chill out. Please chill out.
Get your hand off me. Get your hand off me. I will step out.
Now, I want to pause this for a minute because in the video, and as a boy mom, I can definitely relate. Sometimes our adrenaline is pumping so much, y'all, because our kids are in the car and we're like, we want to protect them. You know, we don't know what's going on. You can hear, so the mom is arguing with the police officer, going back and forth because he's trying to issue her a citation. She tosses it out the window and now he's trying to arrest her for littering. Y'all. And you can hear the son asking the mom, please chill out. And it just grips my heart because I've been in a situation similar. And once I saw the fear in my child's face, I was like, okay, you know what, vet, you need to like scale it back a little bit because just like we see where these police officers have acted, you know, above and beyond what they should have, so have our children. And our Black male children are already on pins and needles, always have to keep their head on a swivel, depending on where you're growing up. You know, if you're growing up in the inner city, you're learning how to survive more than you are thrive. So my whole heart goes out to both of them, the mom and the son. Let's finish watching. And I want you to tell me your thoughts on this. If you saw this video, let me know as well your thoughts. This is being reported by It's On Site. Let me finish playing.
I'm the supervisor. I'm not stepping out of nothing. Get your hand off me. Get your hand off me.
I'm not letting go.
You littered. You dropped the ticket, not me.
I put the ticket in the car.
No, you dropped the ticket. You dropped the ticket, not me. Get your hands off me. You're touching me. Give me the ticket. You're touching me forcibly. You're holding me so tight, and you're being out of line. Y'all see this, right?
Sir, I'm sorry. Can she just get the ticket?
No, you stop. Why are you holding my arm like this?
Because I gave you the
Why?
ticket.
No, you did not. You dropped the ticket, not me. I told you I did not want it. You dropped it. You dropped it. You're doing too much. I'm not afraid of you. Get your hand off of me. You're holding me forcibly for no reason.
Because you need to step out of the car.
Get your fucking hands off me.
Step out of the car.
No, why am I stepping out of the
Is there
car?
anything I can do to get you to comply?
Look, Mom, he just said take the ticket and we can leave. He said take the ticket and we
No,
can
I
leave.
did not. You did that.
He said
You
take
threw
the
the
ticket
ticket
and
at
we
I
me.
gave it to you so
You
you
threw
could
the
leave.
ticket at
And then
me.
you grabbed it
Okay,
and threw it out.
give me the
It's on
ticket.
your phone
Give
video.
me the ticket.
No,
Give me the
we're
ticket.
past that.
Okay.
You're under arrest. Step
For
out of the
what?
car, littering.
Okay.
Step out of the car.
No, I'm not.
You're under arrest.
No, when
Yes, ma'am.
your colonel gets here,
No, we have
then
to.
Now, mind you, she is asking for a supervisor, which is the same thing that I would have done. She's asking for a supervisor. He's saying that he's the supervisor on duty at that point. What I can say is, a lot of times they expect us to act like this, y'all. They expect as Black women for us to get into our feelings. And when you know things are wrong, they don't necessarily want you to tell them, well, you're doing this wrong. And I know you're doing this wrong. They don't want you to tell them that. They want you to be dumb. They want you to not know your rights. They want us to not know our rights, y'all, because that way they can get away with all of the BS. But has this gone too far on either of their accounts is my question. Do y'all feel as if, because the son, you can hear him, crying out to the mom to please stop, just take the ticket. But I know me too. I know me. Listen, especially if I know like you're doing some F stuff. I'm like, no, this ain't right. And the only way you're going to stop doing this is if I stand my ground. I have to stand my ground. But at the same time, was this the right time for her to stand her ground is my question, with her 15-year-old son in the car. I don't know, y'all. I don't know how I feel about this because I see both sides. I really do. Man, it's hard. It is hard when it's some F stuff going on. It's so difficult when you know your rights. It's difficult. But sometimes they take you there. They take you there. They want you to just go along with the programming. And it's like people are these days, you don't want to go along with the programming because it's the programming that got a lot of people, man.
Step out. I'm not getting out of the car. I'm with my child, and I'm not doing that. Call your father right now.
Step out of the car.
I'm not. I'll step out when another officer gets here. I'm not stepping out. I don't trust you. You're holding me too strong, and I don't trust you. You don't have to hold me like I'm not going anywhere. Where am I going to go? I'm not going to go. I'm not stepping out of the car. Call your colonel, and I will get out of the car.
My other question, y'all, for this video is, I wonder, had this woman been white and listen, y'all, I'm just going by experience. Had this woman been white, would this have been handled differently? I have a feeling it would have been. Some people are biased and don't even realize they're biased. I had a situation where I was at a function. It was a work function. And at this work function, at the end, there were 3 women left and, some of our male coworkers. 2 of the women, including myself, were African-American. The one was white. It was late. And the men had asked the white woman how she was getting home, because we had to walk to where we were going, where the function was. We had to literally walk. And like, we're all just standing there, and they had like little to no regard to our safety. But I just thought it fascinating, like, wow, y'all really have little to no regard to how all of us all of us walked together. And now it's late at night and it's time to go home. And they had little to no regard to how we were going to get home, because we are always looked at as if we are stronger. Even though, y'all, we deal with it, we don't want to have to always be the strong one. Like, if you line, most women up, they don't want to, African-American women, we don't always want to have to be the strong one. We've been made to be this way. So there's bias there.
You're holding me. I'm not resisting arrest. What am I under arrest for? What am I under arrest for? I didn't litter. You did that. It's all on camera. So when your colonel gets here, then I will step out. I have my child with me. I'm not getting out of the... You have a supervisor, okay? So when your supervisor gets here, then I will step out of the car. Call someone else to come here. There is someone else.
Not right now.
There is someone else. Let me call 911. Get your phone.
All right, please, sir, stop.
And you're supposed to be able to call 911.
Stop, sir, please stop. Stop, please, sir. Stop, please.
Okay, y'all, I'm getting mad just looking at it. So I'm going to just stop that. So he's grabbing her by the head and everything, pulling her out the car. And you can hear the son in the background saying, "Mom, just please stop." And the mom, y'all, as a Black woman in America, we have feelings. We bleed. We hurt. just like everybody else, like doggone it. Why do we always forever have to be looked at as so strong when dang, we don't even have the capability to have weak moments? Can I live in my soft girl era, please and thank you? Please and thank you. Because I'm sure had that been a white woman, that would not have happened. It wouldn't have happened that way. It just ain't no way. I've just seen videos of women spitting on officers and all of that. I just recently saw a video of a white man who I believe they hit the officer and walked away. Had that been one of my sons, he would have been pow. I'm sick of it, y'all. But this is the world that we live in. This is the world that we live in. So let me ask y'all, did y'all know that Gen Z may be the first generation in history to have a lower IQ than their parents? And it's due to technology. And I started, once our phones started spelling for us, I was like, well, dang, how are people going to learn how to spell something themselves if our phones, like the technology is literally doing these things for us? Well, there was a post that I came across, and it talks about that. Okay, so right now, what's happening is researchers are looking into what's going on. It's a growing epidemic, y'all. It's really a growing epidemic. So let's break it down. So right now, so for about 80 to 90 years, IQ scores kept rising. They kept rising with each generation. We got smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter. I don't think we thought that technology would evolve into what it has, where it's literally helping us think better, process better. If you, at one point, if you type, depending on how you have your phones and tablets and stuff set up, you may be able to just write one letter and a whole bunch of options are going to come up. So you're no longer needing to know how to spell things. So I'm thinking, okay, so what does this do for our kids? They took cursive writing out. And if technology is spelling for them, what are you literally learning? So again, the IQ scores, it's called the Flynn effect, y'all. Look it up. Some of the reasons why scores did rise is because people started making more money, eating better, more education. You see more people going to school. So now with school, it's raising your IQ scores because you're learning more. Technology as well, smaller families, like I said a little while ago, people stopped having all of those kids. So now you have the ability to learn. But around the 1990s, y'all, here we are with this technological boom. Things start changing. Computers. When I first entered school, we didn't have computers. I remember learning how to use the computers. We used to have to type, semicolon, run, all of that, / run. That's how, there was no operating system. There was no such thing as Microsoft. We used to have to make the computers run. But around the 1990s to 2000s, that upward trend started flattening or reversing in some countries. So right now, studies in places like Norway, Denmark, and the US show slight drops in certain cognitive test scores for younger groups. That's because we have these computers thinking for them. They're no longer using that brain capacity that we once had to use. How many of us right now can remember 5 phone numbers? Less known one. Please. I remember when you had to know people's phone numbers or you walked around with them written down, but I'm sure back in the days, we knew at least 10 to 20 phone numbers, y'all, right off the rip. Now, how many of us can remember one phone number today? If we are unable to remember one phone number, that means we aren't using that same brain capacity that we once had to use because of technology. Now, this doesn't mean that Gen Z is not intelligent. It means they're going to be learning differently. They're going to be learning using technology. But what about that brain capacity that they need to still be able to use? They still need to be able to know certain things, but it's not happening. Attention span has dropped because we got these, 30-second clips that gives us all of the news that happened in one day. Like we think it's nice that we can go on TikTok and we can watch, something less than 5 minutes and find out what's going on in the world. But that's not necessarily a good thing, because that means our attention span is slowly decreasing bit by bit. Verbal reasoning, memory recall. I try and strengthen my brain by just remembering certain things, phone numbers, because that memory recall is important. Things that have improved is visual processing, which I love, because if you are a visual learner, now you have more things that are visually, teaching you versus just words. Because I said it before and I'll say it again. You can't just give me a book with a whole bunch of words and be like, here, vet, learn this. I'd be like, I ain't never been dumb, but I'm a visual learner. I remember in school when things switched from pictures, because remember when you first enter school, you learn a lot of things by pictures. At least that's what it was in the 70s and the 80s. And then it was like it went to words, and it was like, man, I struggled a little bit. I can literally remember telling my teacher, why aren't there any pictures in my book? Because that's how I learned. I would skip ahead and everything, y'all, because I just wanted to. I loved learning. I still love learning, but I didn't overstand that I'm a visual learner. There was no such thing. They made it seem, again, the program, and they made it seem like everybody had to learn this way. And if you didn't learn this way, it meant that something was wrong with you. I didn't realize that was a farce, y'all. I didn't realize that was a farce, because it was. What some experts think is happening. Some researchers believe that it's the environment, not genetics, is the main factor. And I would agree with that a little bit. I'm of that place where I think that nature and nurture has a lot to do with who we become. So I do believe that the environment has a lot to do with it, because right now we're living in a digital environment where technology is literally, like, this is literally, y'all, a computer. I do not have to open up this laptop at all. I do most of my work on my phone, unless it calls for an actual where I have to be on the computer, the laptop, because there are still some things that I use that you have to do on a laptop. But I'd say 90% of what I do, including editing videos, is done using this little device right here, my phone. How many of your kids are walking around with phones? So if they can go to ChatGPT and say, take a picture of their test, that ChatGPT may just very well answer all the questions for them. And your child has learned nothing. They're also saying that possible influences are social media and those dopamine cycles. Those likes, y'all. We all like those likes. Oh, you like what I did? Thank you. And that, the more they're liking, the more you're soaking it in, and you're feeling better. Educational styles also, less memorization, more device-based learning, like I was just saying. This thing right here, information overload. Yes, brain processes huge volumes of content daily. That's why I have to, for my own well-being, I have to pull away from social media. So y'all, don't think I'm just ignoring y'all, or like if y'all see I haven't checked the message and it's been 4 days, it's because Vet is seriously doing some self-care, because the amount of information that's out there, y'all, for somebody that, again, I was born in the 70s, raised in the 80s, and I played around in the 90s, y'all. This info is too much. I remember having to go to the library and physically check out books, right, son? Hey, sunshine. I remember going to the library and having to physically check out books, and it was a book. That's how I learned. Now it's like I can go on TikTok, YouTube, Lemonade, Facebook, there's so many platforms, fan base, and find information. Like literally people are getting their news from places like TikTok, literally. So that information overload is real. Our brain is processing huge amounts of content daily. When you are on social media, your brain is constant. Your brain is like on overload, y'all. That phone, sleep disruption. And then right now, we also have to think about them COVID babies. I have kids that graduated during COVID, and I still say that these kids that graduated during COVID man, they aren't grown. They missed out on a lot of social activity because we were locked down for so many years. We were locked down. And then you got these babies that's just going to school in 2025, just going to kindergarten, these COVID babies, you know, yeah. So is it a media exaggeration? I don't think so. I think that there is definitely something to it that, if you have a child that is part of that Gen Z, just be mindful of that. Gen Alpha kids today, the ones that's being born today, may have the biggest cognitive shift in human history, y'all, and it has a lot to do with AI. Just think that the kids that are being born today are going to be growing up with AI. They won't know anything other than that. So if you remember the Jetsons, remember the little boy, I can't remember his name, but the little son in the Jetsons, that was AI. That was AI. His phone, that was AI, y'all. And that's literally this new generation. That's literally this new generation right now. So I didn't really want to talk too much about what's going on, but y'all, we have to. Let's talk about world news and entertainment, y'all. I want to get into this war that's going on. I talked about it earlier on my Facebook, but I really wanted to talk to y'all about, do y'all even know what's going on, JY41? Do y'all even know or even care why is the U.S. in this thing? Why are we in this thing? Like, that was my question. Like, why? Like, I started questioning things, and I talked about this on the morning show, and I talked about this on the Vet Green show. And I was like, well, when the Ukraine war happened, I was like, what is going on? Like, what minerals are over there? What is going on that all of this war is happening? And right now, a few weeks ago, our president decided to drop a bomb on, allegedly, a school full of young girls, allegedly. The bomb was dropped. It was dropped. But what's not being widely reported is who was affected. Again, the propaganda is real. And I love my country, but I don't always agree with everything that we do. And I don't want to be in something that really has nothing to do with us. Like, how much power do you need? So let's talk about how we got here. Right now, they're saying that, and this is just going on, this is recent, that the U.S. struck the Karg Island, which is Iran's main oil export hub. Now, right now, 20% of the oil is coming from, I think it's called Hamas. What is the name of that doggone strait? What is the name of that strait? Yeah, forgive me. I should have had that down. I just don't want to get the wording. Strait of Hormuz. About 20% of the world's oil comes from the Strait of Hormuz, y'all. 20% out of 100. 20% out of 100 comes from there. One of the reasons why they want to take over Iran is because, again, the oil reserves, y'all. They've already taken over Venezuela. I think Venezuela was number 3 in the world as far as oil reserves. And this is something, it's not even really well working oil reserves. Like, they're going to have to put capital into it to build it up to be something. But they've already taken it and kidnapped the doggone. Like, this is really happening. This is really happening, Herschel. This is really happening in my lifetime. Like, I have to laugh to keep from crying because it's like, man. She scared me. This is really happening. So the U.S. forces have struck Kharg Island. And again, that's Iran's main oil export hub. That island handles about 90% of Iran's oil exports, making it one of the most strategic energy sites in the Middle East. Iran has warned that retaliation is coming, possibly targeting energy infrastructure linked to the U.S. or its allies, which scares me. It scares me. Because just like 9/11 touched us, and we can go back and forth about, whose fault that was, but it happened on U.S. soil. And that was the first time in my lifetime that anything of that magnitude had happened on U.S. soil. So yes, it does scare me to think that here we are yet in another war, and they're talking about nuclear attacks, because nuclear can literally obliterate everybody. And I don't know which way Putin is going, because I don't necessarily agree that I don't think that he trusts this country. I just don't. I don't know what, they may have had going on before, but I don't even think that they take our president seriously. I just don't. I don't think that they take him seriously. And then I'm looking at our president and I'm like, man, don't forget about us. Don't forget about the people that you are supposed to be. This is our president. Don't forget about us. Don't forget that you have people in your country that's struggling right now. People that can't afford to pay rent. People that can't afford to put groceries on their table. Don't forget about us. We do not need to be a part of a war for control. We don't, not right now. Some of those billions, we are literally spending $1 billion, if not more, a day. Do you know what $1 billion could do for people here in America? Do you know what that money can do? There are literally people right now in the grocery store looking at their doggone bank statement, seeing how much freaking money they can spend on food. There's people right now wondering, how am I going to make rent for next month? There are people right now who's wondering, how am I going to get to work? And it's not because they are lazy. It's because they don't have enough reserves. They don't have enough money to make ends meet. My mother used to say, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Well, there's going to be a lot of people robbing Peter to try and pay Paul, Paulette, Suzanne, doggone National Fuel, National Grid, Comcast, Xfinity, all of that, y'all. All of that. But yet we can go to war. We can go drop bombs in a country and spend billions of dollars a day, but we can't feed the homeless or house the homeless in this country. That's the part that I say make it make sense. And that's the part that are not able to wrap their minds around, y'all. And as we get further and further into this, now we're like, okay, are they going to start sending ground troops? And I talked about this earlier on my Facebook. If we start sending ground troops, what is that going to look like? Because people have not been enlisting as much as y'all may believe. Look it up. People have not been enlisting in the service. Now, yeah, we're going to have some people. We're going to have patriots. We're going to have people that's, I'm down with my country. I'll die for my country. I love my country. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else but America. I wouldn't. I love to travel other places, but at the end of the day, I would not want to live any place else but America. But what are we doing? What about the citizens here in America who are wondering if they're going to go in to work on Monday and see a pink slip? What about that? What about the people who have mortgages and they just got laid off from their job that they've had for 15 years? And they're like, what now? My reserves can only last me about 6 months. And then what? Because now you're competing with millions of people who are unemployed, millions of people who lost their job, millions. Look at the job market. Look at the job market right now, y'all. Between AI and this war, what is going to happen to the citizens in this country is my question. Because I'm a visual person. I see it, y'all. I see it. Everybody's not going to catch on to AI. AI have already started taking people jobs. We talked about this 2-3 years ago on the morning show with the Joker and Vet Brain, how AI was taking jobs. Now here we are in 2026. What happened, y'all? What happened? Y'all didn't believe us. Y'all didn't believe me when I was saying here in Chicago, McDonald's may have 4 people behind the counter, one cooking, one taking your order, the manager. So not even 4 people. So places that had full scale people, you can go into grocery stores right now and you have self-checkouts. What is that? That is a job that is no longer there. That is a job that is gone because of technology. You go to places like McDonald's, you don't even have to talk to a person, to be honest. You can go right up to the kiosk. Heck, the newer Burger Kings have the kiosk where when you go through the drive-through, you're talking to AI. That was a job. You may look into, as you're picking up your food, you look into the bill and you see only 2 people in there, where it was a full scale like crew at one point. You don't need all of that anymore, they say. You go into Walmart, BJ's, and you see the robot walking around taking inventory. No longer do you see the person with the clipboard walking around taking inventory. I was one of those people. One of my jobs as a teenager, I had to do inventory. We no longer have that. So if all of that is going on right here in America and around the world, what's going to happen to the citizens if we were already facing these things? You know, the housing situation. People are being overpriced out of their neighborhoods because they can no longer afford to live there. What is the minimum amount? There's a threshold right now as far as rent. Like I'm for a 3-bedroom, don't have a big family, because what I'm seeing right now for rents and stuff, upwards of $12, $13, $14, $15, $16, $1,700. People are coming out of retirement because they can no longer afford to not work. People are literally coming out of retirement because they cannot afford to not work. Now, when you retire, you're supposed to, listen, you can't even retire until you like 67 and a half. There's a man that works at the local BJ's in my neighborhood, and he's been there for years. I was walking out one day because I remember him being there when my kids were younger. And I asked him, I said, well, dang, because this man got to be about every bit of 80 years old. At the door, he's the one that checks your slips. And I said, I remember you being here when my kids were younger. You know, how long have you been here? And he said, about 15 years. And back then, I remember him telling me that he was coming out of retirement. Like he had came out of retirement. Now, some people come out of retirement because they want to. But what about those who have to, is my question. What about those people who have to come out of retirement? Because if you don't, you may not be able to eat. I know far too many people who have retired and their co-pays are just like astronomically high. Astronomically high. Now we can say, well, they should have saved more money or they should have invested smarter. Well, a lot of people didn't have that education, okay? A lot of us didn't have that education, that financial literacy. You know, a lot of us just didn't grow up like that. What about those people? What about people who are dealing with medical conditions right now? And the nursing homes are just like, that's a whole other show. What about those people? And this is just not a regional fight, y'all. It affects everything. It affects everything. That's why I'm so adamant about talking about this, because this affects our global energy supply. That's why our gas prices are going up right now, because of what's going on. The Strait of Hormuz, where about 20% of the world's oil normally passes, has nearly shut down due to this conflict. So what does that mean? Your normal everyday people who have been living paycheck to paycheck are going to see a spike in gas prices. So a lot of those vacations that people were planning because gas prices were finally under wraps. I remember when I was living in Delaware back in 2005, gas was about $5 a gallon, and we had a doggone Suburban. That sucker cost about $130 to fill. $130 each time, y'all. Each time. I can't imagine having to do that right now. I'm so glad Bessie only costs about $42. Well, she was $42. She probably about $45, $50 right now. And that lasts 2 weeks. I'm so thank you, Jesus. Okay? Because I ain't got time to be putting all of this money into gas and stuff. Nah, Oil prices have now surged to above $100 a barrel and could reach about 200 if this continues, if this conflict continues, y'all. Iran has responded with missiles and drone attacks. They've targeted some Israeli cities, some U.S. military bases as well, and is shipping in the Persian Gulf. Russia is not officially fighting in the Iran war, but it is involved geopolitically. Now, as far as Putin, I don't know. I don't know, y'all. I don't know, because again, I do not believe that they take our president seriously. I don't believe that they do. I don't think that, and I feel in my heart that given the right conditions, y'all, and Russia benefits indirectly because of high oil prices too. You know, the Ukraine war is still ongoing, and the escalation, the escalation path is right now we are in two major war zones, the Middle East and Eastern Europe, y'all. The Iran war and the Ukraine war. The Middle East war is the one that's most likely going to affect everybody globally, more than likely. And that's because of the oil and the shipping routes. This conflict just isn't about Iran and Israel anymore, y'all. It's quickly turning into this geopolitical shitstorm that at the end of the day is going to be the people, the middle and lower class, that's going to be really, really affected, because many of us have been barely getting by. And it's not going to get easier. It's not. This is really going to be a time where you look at your life and be like, man, this too shall pass. But man, this is going to be a defining moment for a lot of us, y'all. Either we are going to be in it to win it, and we gonna make do. We gonna make it work, or we gonna lay down and just man, don't do that. Don't just lay down. Don't just lay down and give up. We can't do that right now, y'all. Take care of your people. Like, this is the time I feel like we need to be spreading more love, helping out our neighbors, not talking about people just because they may be struggling. Like, this is the time where we need to really be neighborly. We really do, because you don't know. Some of the strongest people the people that you think are the strongest may be the weakest at this point. Maybe the ones that's doing the most, struggling at this point and don't want to talk about it because they feel embarrassed or something. Reach out to your folks. Okay, reach out to your folks, because yeah. Now, some of y'all might be asking, Ram03, how did we even get here? How the U.S. and Iran conflict really started? Well, it actually started, it goes back to when my mom was born in 1953. Back in the early 1950s, Iran had democratically elected prime minister named Mohammad Mossadegh. And what he did shook the world. He nationalized Iran's oil industry. He nationalized it. Now, remember, now I don't know if y'all watched me on my Facebook earlier, but I talked about how there's a thing called the petrodollar. Look it up, y'all. He nationalized Iran's oil industry. Before that, British companies controlled most of Iran's oil profits. The U.S., United States, and the U.K. feared two things: losing oil influence, and Iran possibly leaning toward the Soviet Union during the Cold War. So the 1953 Iranian coup d'etat happened. The CIA and the British intelligence secretly helped overthrow Mossadegh and reinstall the king of of Iran, which was Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. I may be saying the names wrong. Many Iranians still see this moment as the start of the U.S. interference in their country, and they don't like us because of that. What's going on, Boris Banga? They don't like us because of that. Then in 1979, the Iranian Revolution. Now, this is the part that I remember things going on. Like, hence, when I say war seemed to always be on the television when I was growing up, this is what I remember. The Shah ruled for decades with strong support from the United States, but inside Iran, now remember, this is their country. This is their country. People accused him of corruption. The secret police were accused of brutality. And in 1979, a revolution overthrew him. The new leader was Ruhollah Khomeini, which is the supreme leader who was recently unlived. Then a major event happened, y'all. Iran hostage crisis. Iranian students stormed the U.S. embassy and held 52 American hostages for 444 days. And I remember this playing out, y'all. I can remember the fear and hearing, prisoner of war in my household, because keep in mind, my bonus father fought in the Korean War. So I can remember these conversations going on and remembering in school praying for these hostages, these U.S. hostages, and they're programming us to think that all of these people are bad and we should never go over there. And America is so great. And yes, we are. We are one of the greatest countries ever, y'all. We truly are. And what people have been able to do, live out their dreams in this country is just amazing, because it doesn't always happen like that. But what happened to allow that to happen, right? So from that moment on, the U.S. and Iran cut diplomatic ties, and sanctions and hostility became permanent. And now here we are. So from 1980 to 1988, the Iran and Iraq war happened. Many of our loved ones fought in this war. Soon after the revolution, Saddam Hussein then invaded Iran. Y'all, the U.S. quietly supported Iraq. Why? Because Washington feared the spread of Iran's Islamic revolution across the Middle East. This is what's been going on, y'all. The war lasted 8 years and killed about 1 million people. About 1 million people were unlived, y'all. This deepened Iran's distrust of America. From the 2000s to about right now, nuclear program tensions. Fast forward to the 2000s, Iran began expanding its nuclear program. And the U.S. was like, you're not allowed to have nuclear weapons. We have nuclear weapons. You are not allowed. Iran said it's being used for energy and medicine, and the U.S. and Israel believe it could be used to build nuclear weapons. In 2015, the countries reached the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and I want y'all all to look this stuff up as well. The deal limited Iran's nuclear activity in exchange for lifting the sanctions, right? What's up, babe? So it limited the nuclear activity, and they're like, okay, we're going to stop all of this diving into this nuclear war thing, or this nuclear thing, if you lift these sanctions. So the deal limited Iran's nuclear activity in exchange for lifting sanctions. But in 2018, the U.S. withdrew from the agreement. That again, when tensions arose, they're like, man, this is why we didn't trust y'all, because y'all keep doing this F stuff to us. In 2020, the killing of Soleimani happened, y'all. The U.S., unlike Iran's top military commander, what do? He was Iran's top military commander. If you cut the head off the snake. The strike happened at a Baghdad airport. Iran retaliated with missile attacks on U.S. bases. Many analysts say this was one of the closest moments to a full war. A lot of us thought we were going to go to war. Y'all, when I say the first term, I was surprised we didn't go to war. I really was. And right now, tensions revolve around three main issues: nuclear weapons, control of oil roads, and a regional power struggle, because that's really what this is. Go lay down, big girl. Go over there. Go ahead. So Grammy can sit down. You just not trying to move. Watch out. Move. Go over there with Lexi. Oh, Lexi behind me. Lord. Y'all. So that's what's going on right now, y'all. Here's a one-sentence explanation. The U.S.-Iran conflict is really about oil, which I talked about earlier, those oil reserves, because that petrodollar is real. That petrodollar is real. It's what's holding up our economy right now, y'all. It is what's holding up our economy. Most people think that this war started recently, but it hasn't. It's decades of political decisions, coups, doggone sanctions, and power struggles finally boiling over, because everybody's like, you know what, America, I know you to be a bully, and I'm tired of being bullied. Now, one of the other stories I wanted to talk to y'all about is one that Bam Fam had brought me, and I talked about it earlier on my Facebook, y'all. So back in 1979, hang on, I talked about that Iran hostage crisis, and the militants took 66 American hostages. Eventually, 52 were held for 44 days. Well, some of those that were released actually were African Americans. And one of the reasons why they released them is because they recognize the suffering that we as African Americans have over here in America. We've been redlined out of homes. We still have to be careful when we are getting mortgages and doing getting our homes appraised, because normally it's appraised for way lower than our white counterparts. That's just the truth. Look it up. Look it up. I believe Dateline did a documentary on it as well, where they had appraisals come in Black homes, and they had the Black family pictures all over the house, because this is a Black house. And then they were like, okay, let's try this again. Let's put white faces all over the house and have a white person at the door when the appraiser knocked, and literally thousands of dollars were underappraised. These homes were underappraised. Yeah. One of the reasons why they said that they would release us, because again, they recognize what we had to deal with here. Yeah, you were in school. You remember that? Yeah. And one of the reasons why they said is because we are so oppressed over here in America. That's why when our Black troops went over to Vietnam, like a lot of times people were looking at them like they were crazy. Like, how could y'all be over here fighting us when you can't even get the respect that you need in your own country? But you know us, we want to do what we think we're supposed to do. And because of the love that we have for our country, we thought that a lot of times our soldiers don't really know what's going on, y'all, until they get there. And then they realize what's really going on. And then they come back home, and you have them dealing with things like PTSD. You know, I have a nephew who unlifed himself because it just, sometimes it's hard for people to get over being over there in a constant war zone and constantly being like, I said earlier that, growing up in the inner city, you literally learn to keep your head on a swivel. You really do. You really do. You develop this stance where you like, don't even talk to me. Like you develop this stance where, man, and it's more out of survival than it is out of, this is how I want to be. I want to portray that I'm a mean person and stay the F away from me. It's more of a reaction. Like we develop that because of our environment. Well, imagine if you have been fighting for months, and you have to be weary of, even because there is a such thing as children bombers. There is a such thing as that. Imagine being in a place where this is where you've been for months, years even. And then you go back home and you try and go into the grocery store and all you hear are carts. And that sets you off. Like, I'm being very, very serious. Very, very serious. You hear a glass drop and it sets you off. And now you're all of a sudden on guard because in your mind, you need to protect yourself. Fight or flight. That instinct automatically kicks in. This is what a lot of our soldiers have to deal with when they come back home, y'all, because their reality is now distorted, right? Big Mike said it's true. My switch gone as soon as you hit Penn Station. See, coming from Brooklyn, coming from the city, his switch goes on as soon as he hits Penn Station, because you develop this stance like you have to protect yourself. A lot of our soldiers come home feeling like that. And we may look at them like they're not in their right mind, but we have to also remember that they've been subjected to a lot of stuff that they just will not ever talk about. I remember over the last probably 20 years, I had a chance to talk with somebody who fought in the Vietnam War. Sweet person, but would not talk to me about what happened to them when they were in the war, would not talk about it. Like, you could see the tears and stuff in their eyes, because a lot of the stuff that they had to do because it was their duty, they don't want to talk about that because it's an embarrassing and it's not something that they would ever do here on American soil, ever. But these are things that they had to do. But what we see is that, a soldier then went crazy and shot up his wife. What was going on in that soldier's mind, y'all? What was going on in that soldier's mind that they pow-powed their own loved one or pow-powed themselves? Look at the statistics of our officers, and I'm including police officers as well. Look at the statistics of the abuse that because a lot of them, not all, but some, they get into these DV cases, y'all, for a reason, because their minds are no longer the way that they used to be before they left. So I'll say that to say, because that was long, here we are, possibly in the midst of sending ground troops over to Iran, and what is that going to look like for America? Yeah, majority came back as monsters. I lived with one, Big Mike said. Yeah. And as a child growing up with a parent who fought in war, I can just imagine how traumatic that can be on a household. Because I know, listen, my bonus father had ways about him, and I understand now it's because of, the time he came up, the things he had experienced in his own life. Like, I understand that. And I was able to, put my feelings aside and look at him as a man who too may have been troubled, instead of saying, well, you didn't do this, and, this wasn't right, and, this, that, and the other. Same with my biological father. He didn't fight in any wars or anything, but I'm able to understand that his life experience kind of shaped him to be who he became. When you have a person who, neither one of your parents were in your life, both of your superheroes kind of like abandoned you, how are you supposed to grow up and show love, give love, when you've never really experienced true love from the people who brought you into this world? So I'm able to understand that. And I was able to do a lot of forgiveness. That comes from healing, y'all, because Lord knows I was angry. I was angry. I was angry. I was angry. I was angry until I had to let that go and realize that the people who we love and the people that we, that may have been around us growing up, they went through some things. What's going on, Cap 716? They went through some things, and then they had to raise us with those issues. And I come from a generation where you speak when spoken to, come when called. We wasn't no back talk, wasn't no opinion. Opinion what? Opinion your ass in that room. That's what you do. That's what you do. I couldn't have no opinion. Although my mom let me speak, we didn't really have the ability to have an opinion. Her opinion was my opinion, right? Big Mike's had early age, you have to program yourself to do just the opposite. It's like self-brainwash. Yeah, because that's true. You have to program yourself very early if you're able to, because everybody can't do that. Some people are unable to thrive if they do not have that support early on. Some people are just unable to go very far in life because they don't have that support early on. And you have some people who, shoot, when they back up against the wall, it's like, okay, I got to come out fighting. I got to come out swinging. Like, I can't just let you back me up into this corner and just lay here and die. I got to do something about it. But not everybody is like that. Everybody is not like that. I also had a video. I'm about to get off of here, y'all, in this record. And I thank y'all for joining me over here on Instagram, everybody. And thank y'all for joining me. If y'all are watching here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel and share this out with people. Let them know that you are watching the Vet Green Show. Oh, I was on here an hour and a half, y'all. Oh, I'm so proud of me. I had a video of the man. Did y'all see that video of the man in the elevator? I think it was in New York too. The man stepping off the elevator and the elevator falling. Lord, I thought I had it, but Instagram, if you don't, I sent it to myself, but it is not allowing me. Let me see if I can find it. Because I sent myself the link, but Instagram wants you to look at other stuff that's on Instagram once you click on there, because it is not allowing, it is not showing me that video. And I probably saw it on the Green Links channel, so I can't find it. Let me see. How do you see? Man in elevator. Let me see if I can find it this way. Come on, big girl. Man in elevator. Let me see if I can find it this way. Y'all, when I saw this video, I was like, what the heck? Yep, it's here. Okay, let me share it real quick. Let me see if I can share this. When I saw this video, I was like, could you imagine getting off the elevator? Could you imagine getting off the elevator? Hang on, I gotta play it. Could you imagine getting off the elevator? Yeah, I got to replay this. This is scary. Look at that. Like when I saw that, I gripped my pearls. Like he literally. No. Oh my God. When I say God was on his side, God was on his side, y'all. God was on his side. Like he literally. I remember I was Ubering in Chicago. I'm gonna tell y'all this, and then I'm gonna in the live. Big girl, get out of there. Go over there. Go. Go ahead. Move. You got my house shoe. I was driving Uber or Lyft in Chicago. And I'm driving one night. It's late. I'm coming from the city. And I got my gospel on. I had finished my last ride. I was like, I'm about to go home. It's about 2:00 in the morning. I said, I'm about to go home. I'm tired. I done made enough money. So I got my gospel up. Like I'm feeling it. I feel God all in the vehicle with me. So I happen to look out my rear view mirror. I see this car racing up. I said, oh my goodness, this car looks like it's about to hit me. it was like that. It literally was on my bumper. It felt like, why this car? I tell you no lie. This is me driving. I didn't broke my thing. This is me driving, and this is the car coming up behind me. Why this car did this and hit the doggone car in front of me? It was like God was like, "Oh, that's my daughter. Oh, she's trying to get her life together. She can't go out like this." That car hit the cars in front of me and the doggone where it splits going from, you know how if you're on the 33, you can get off or you can keep going. You know that little section where those water things be on the 33? Yeah, that car hit the car, all of that. And I was able to keep on going. And I was like, holy Jesus, did that just happen? Because it was like something took that vehicle and made it go around me and hit all the other cars except for me. It wasn't the car. I'm telling you, It was it was in like slow motion, y'all. That's when I knew the power of God is real. And you really can conjure up that feeling. You feel it when you're in church. You feel it when you're amongst people who have that same mindset. You feel that power. So I want us to do that, y'all. Let's pray for one another. Let's love on one another. Let's spread more love than hate. Let's stop all of this ego tripping. Let's start checking on our neighbors, not worrying about, all of that stuff that's really irrelevant. Can we do that? Can we do that? Can we, because I saw how energy can shift the atmosphere. And if we can shift the atmosphere and pray for our president, if we can shift the atmosphere and pray for these people that's doing these heinous acts, if we can shift the atmosphere, maybe people will start seeing more God than the devil. Okay. All right. I love y'all long live. Have a wonderful, 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 wherever you are on purpose, because you can.
This is a Green Links Media production. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the bell to be reminded when we go live.